Hello, welcome to Silicon Spin, the show that tackles high-tech issues. I'm your host, John C. Dvorak, and along with our panel of pundits and their opinions, we want to add your comments. So visit the website at siliconspin.com, and don't forget to answer the question of the week for a chance to win the fabulous Silicon Spin mug, which topped $200 last week. No takers. Today's topics on Silicon Spin: the death of print is greatly exaggerated, and the results of the fabulous tie game with viewer commentary. First, let's introduce our panelists. To my right, Pat Holt, columnist and book critic. Her online column, Holt Uncensored, comments on publishing in the internet era. She's also been a critic for the San Francisco Chronicle and Publishers Weekly. Martin Eberhard's on my left, co-founder and CEO of Nuvo Media, maker of the Rocket ebook and related software. Before Nuvo Media, he was chief engineer for network computing devices. Over there on the far right's Keith Davidson, president of Xplor International, an association of electronic document companies. He oversees Xplor's 20th annual Global Document Conference. It's in Los Angeles this fall. I should go, I guess. And finally, David Cole, editor and publisher of the Cole Papers, a monthly newsletter on technology, journalism, and publishing. He's also edited for the San Francisco Examiner. We've got a Chronicle and Examiner here for a fight later on. Welcome, everybody. The first electronic books are taking two approaches. Turn the book into a computer using digital ink. The ink is actually plastic beads that can be reset to change the text. The other approach is like a computer, kind of making a computer into a book. This Rocket book is relatively light, weighing about a pound. It can be searched and bookmarked. Some ebooks can also be dog-eared with a click or scribbled on with a stylus. But few people may want to read them. Ebook resolution is not nearly as clear as print, and experts say that reading speed is slower. Martin, what will it take for ebooks to be read and accepted?
Well, I think people are reading them, accepting them today. I take issue with the reading speed being slower. Nobody has commented on that with this product.
Has anybody done a study on this?
Our readers have measured their own reading speed, and we have done a small study measuring page-turning speed with about a dozen or two.
Have you thought about giving a couple $1 million to a university to see exactly what the real situation is?
Not particularly.
Because I mean, these things are kind of cool. I agree, but the contrast is not what it is. I mean, just simply against like this yellow paper.
Not with this bright light, but try it in your bedroom. Much more readable in bed. Much more readable on the airplane while you're at it.
Well, I've been editing and reading on computer screens for almost 25 years now, and I can tell you that reading on a computer screen is a slower process than reading on paper.
Yep.
There's no question
Couldn't
about
agree
it.
more. This is not a computer screen.
Well, I've used these devices. And
what's the contrast ratio? It's 20 to 1.
25 to 1, yeah.
What is it for paper?
Paper is...
Depends on the backlight. Depends on the lighting in the room.
Paper is much higher than 20 to 1.
It depends on the light in the room.
Okay.
Well, there's like 100 to 1.
If you're reading, for example, with a itty-bitty light in your room, it's about 5 to 1.
Well, so what's the reception been?
Reception has been very good. The people that own the Rocket books like them. The biggest complaint I get is, of course, that the Rocket book costs too much, and that's being addressed even as we speak.
What does it cost?
Well, until recently, they cost list price $4.99. Today, you can go to buy.com, buy a Rocket book for about, well, around $2.80.
I'm going to show this a little more so people can get a good look at it. Which camera are we going to here? It's an interesting device because you have your text here and it reads vertically, and then you can go you can scroll up and down, and you can also change the contrast, or I mean you can change the type so it's something size. A little more.
Sure. You can change the print size. You can underline. You can change from left-handed to right-handed orientation.
Right, you can make it this way. Pat, do you see the day when people will be reviewing books that come out on these things exclusively?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is a great breakthrough, and I think one day this will probably be the standard for many things. I'm a person who carries 10 books around wherever I go, and so...
You'd rather carry that?
I would rather carry this. I would miss paper. I'm a devoted book reader, but I think that there's always going to be a place for people who want to read books in paper, and people want to read books on the screen. This clearly, and you know, the wonderful thing about it is that it's not going to stop publishing, it's going to help publishing. I hope. I think that's the...
I agree with you.
Yes. If you get that royalty figured out...
Doesn't anybody see it as possibly muddying the waters? Because now any jerk with a word processor can publish a book, and you'll be swamped.
Wow,
of course, I guess
it's wonderful. That's what makes it. That's what's so great about it.
Right. That's what they said to Gutenberg. You know, and with a pressman, it doesn't take a room full of monks to. Yeah, any old jerk can get something.
Wanted to stop him.
Well, I don't know, but I find that the net, for example, which has this effect of having allowing anybody to publish, which is, you know, you get to see some stuff you wouldn't normally see, but I find that it's now Well, actually, this is good for you because you can like be one of the opinion leaders.
Thank you.
But I think it's difficult to find accuracy, and you end up with just your few sites.
Well, right, don't you think this adds value to what the publisher does and what the bookstore does? A publisher's brand on a book says this book is probably worth something. You get a Knopf book, and you know that it's not going to be some junk off the web, right?
Well, why would that be any different than it is today? I find a lot of lousy Knopf books.
No, but the consumer, the reader drives the purchase.
Right.
I mean, that's where we are now. That's what the internet is teaching us. So you don't just get this book on your ebook. You decide what you want to download onto the ebook, and then just like you go into a store and you decide you want to buy this book, and
right.
it's the same. So it's your choice throughout the whole venue.
Well, if that's the case, though, if we're talking about the modern age, shouldn't these books be cheaper than, for example, a paperback, since they're totally electronic and they're downloaded? Aren't these books actually cost more?
No, there's a range of price, from free all the way up to full price of the hardback book. I believe that the pricing on the book...
But don't you think that's ludicrous in itself?
No, I don't. Let me just think of one book. Let's think about Monica's Story. Monica's Story came out as a hardback book. How many people do you think bought that book as an heirloom hardback they want to keep in their living room? I would say near zero.
Well, there's some people in the control room, I believe.
Right. But I would say that the reason people paid for a hardback book is because they want that information right now. It's hot. It's cool. They want it now. And
so you think people should be paying a premium
for new books
for immediacy?
Yes, that's right. Let's give another example. I bought a thick paperback book by Tad Williams called Otherland. Wonderful book. Enjoyed it. Got to the end. Last page. This book is the beginning of a trilogy. Now, it turns out a week later, the second book comes out at the bookstore, but guess what? It's hardback. Do I want that as a hardback? No, but I paid hardback price because I want to pay it, because I want to read it. However, obviously, that book a year later or 2 years later will not sell for the same price. With an electronic book, the prices can drop as the time goes by, as the immediacy of the book becomes less.
Dave, would you pay the full price for a first edition hardbound that you would for an electronic downloaded
I've
book?
got a real problem with this business model. It seems to me that, if I'm not paying for the physical book, I should be paying something a lot less. We know that bookstores pay a lot in storage. Book companies charge a lot for transportation. Our friends at Amazon.com always seem to want to charge me to ship the book.
Notice that we don't charge you to ship the book.
Well, thank goodness for that. But
that's the only difference.
At $25, I think I'd be a little shy about buying a digital book as opposed to buying the full hardcover.
But isn't it like calculators? I mean, one day the price is going to go down.
Well, it's going
to
absolutely. In fact, I think it's going to have to go down for this market to take off. Absolutely. Although you never know. Coming up on Silicon Spin, the independent voice. Can small bookstores fight off Amazon? Stay with us. Welcome back to Silicon Spin. Are independent bookstores an endangered species? Well, go now while you can still visit one. Like a treasure hunt, you can comb the shelves hoping to find something you never knew you wanted, often without any salesperson breathing down your neck. But many independent stores just can't fight Amazon or even brick-and-mortar chain stores and stay in business. In a move we have to call symbolic, Amazon's founder Jeff Bezos has hired a new president who knows all about chopping up the competition. Puns. Joseph Galley was an executive for Black & Decker. Pat, what can small bookstores do against these guys?
Well, small bookstores, independent bookstores, are the neighborhood store, and so they bring a human voice to the mass culture. And as much as Jeff Bezos and Galley would like to say, oh, we're a human voice to you, you really have to fit a profile for them to have a relationship with you. So we move from the idea of mass marketing to relationship marketing, and independent bookstores are way on top of the curve. And I think that over the years, what we have seen building up just in the past 10 years, as the chains have come forward and Amazon has emerged, is an anti-chain bookstore and chain megastore backlash, which is making a lot is appreciate again their neighborhood store, the expertise that people can give you. You know, if you walk into a store and you
say, is there any economics to that? I mean,
yes.
Much as you love your bookstore owner, if 90% of the time when you're ready to buy a book, you go to your computer and you buy it from Amazon. That's the way I do it now.
The joy is that the independents now are going to have a shared web that is every bit as competitive as Amazon. So, and not only that, they will bring you news of authors coming to the neighborhood, in-store events, new discounts, readers clubs, writers books,
and rocket editions.
Aren't you just being idealistic and hopeful?
Well, over the years, a year ago, it looked pretty depressing. Thousands of stores had closed because of this competition, but now we are seeing that the ones that have survived this far are able to hold off competition with that chain store down the road, that Amazon on the website. They are doing quite well because people do appreciate what this
So you think
means.
maybe there was a shakeout amongst small stores, and ones that have been wiped out are wiped out, the other ones are stable?
I do.
For example, in Berkeley, I think Cody's will be there a long time.
We'll always be there, yes.
Well, there's Black Oak, too, which is probably the most notorious of the...
I mean, in Berkeley, it's unlike many places, but it's still true, and it's a model that we should pay attention to. You can't walk 2 feet without seeing a bookstore.
Yes.
And a very specialized bookstore over here, a generalized bookstore over there, a used bookstore, and so forth. And then in comes Barnes & Noble and doesn't shake it up, and then comes Amazon, and they're all still standing. So we're seeing a huge consumer base of readers that didn't exist, say, 10, 15 years ago, because thanks to the PCs, I believe people are back to print. They love to write, they love to read, whereas when I was growing up, it was all couch potato and television.
So where do you live?
Where do I live?
Yeah.
In San Francisco.
Oh, well, I mean, when you mentioned Berkeley, the problem with that to me is that it's a college town, and I think you could probably say the same thing about Madison, Wisconsin, or Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Ann Arbor, sure.
And I don't know if that holds up in Omaha.
I think the urban model is Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, and you've got Mail, the big bookstore and the web wiping out most of the little guys. There's not enough economics. The convenience to shop still won't get enough of your book buying dollar to keep that kind of level of service available.
But I believe if there's a loyalty to the store already, and that local bookstore is able to come online in a way that's competitive on pricing, then the customer will prefer to go to that store rather than the big one. I mean, if I love Printers Inc., for example, and Printers Inc. has an online store, why wouldn't I go there instead of to Amazon?
I buy a lot of used books, and I find that I can pour through an independent bookstore, and I can pour through almost any physical bookstore and not get what I want. But I can go on the web and get what I want, but I'm buying from an independent bookstore. There's, 20, 30, 50 miles away.
Yeah, used books is a whole new thing that has saved a lot of independent stores from going under. So that's very true.
I have the feeling that it would be interesting to see if this conglomeration of independent bookstores going on the web can actually compete.
Could I just throw in one thing? We have to know what is at stake here. It's not just a bunch of mom and pop stores that are trying to survive. It's also the state of literature in the United States. And over the years, when we've seen this tremendous commercialization push on Amazon and these chains, we've seen a lot of good books not get published, and a lot of good books that are published sink through the slats. And thanks to independent bookstores who are believing in books, really good books, and handing them out, we're seeing books like Cold Mountain and Angela's Ashes and Toni Morrison and Barbara Kingsolver, and all these wonderful writers are being discovered by people who care, and that's what independent bookstores are all about, as opposed to the gimmicky kind of books, the commercial books that will sell through any kind of venue, and that's what the chains and Amazon are about.
Well, I have nothing but faith in the ability for large business to crush the competition. I think that she's way off the deep end here. Coming up on Silicon Spin, print is dead. Long live print, a fond memorial next. Welcome back to Silicon Spin. Sometime between 1450 and 1456, it was the height of high tech. That's right, 1450, 1456. The Gutenberg Bible was the first book printed in movable type back then. More than 45 copies still exist, and the Library of Congress displays this one, which is considered the finest version that's still intact. You needed a real bookmark, by the way, for the Gutenbergs. They have no page numbers. And from that distinguished history came everything from collector's editions to mass-market paperbacks, and now eBooks. Keith, should we bid a tearful farewell to the creamy paper, artistic fonts, and fine calligraphy and fine printing?
Well, I don't think so. First of all, printing's pretty high-tech these days. I just installed a new laser writer on my computer and noted that it had more features than the $400,000 Xerox 9700 that I used to sell 20 years ago, and it was under $1,000. And so
Color?
Huh?
You get a color one or a black and white?
I actually got a black and white one because I wanted the scanner, and also the company is paying for it because I'm starting to telecommute from my home office. No, the paperless society is about as likely as the paperless toilet, and for a lot of the same reasons. We may have the technology, but we've got a lot of our human experience and the way that we do things and the way that we learn things that is tied up in being able to use paper as a human interface. And like Pat was saying about the emotional experience of books, about the cultural experience of books, there's also a whole lot of ergonomics about books. There's a lot of culture and tradition about reading from paper. There's a whole lot of legal considerations that we've not figured out how to resolve except to reduce documents to paper. With all that said, I can tell you that high tech is going to replace a lot of printing. High tech is probably going to replace 70 to 80% of the documents that we use in our offices and maybe in our homes. The reason why printing isn't going away is that the number of documents, the amount of information that we use in our offices is growing, doubling about every 3 years, which is faster than the replacement rate of technology, and that's been going on now since the late 50s.
Is that going to end? Do we see that as the ending? You can't keep doubling the amount of information flowing in and have people not shoot themselves.
Get buried in paper.
Well, that's the great challenge for technology, and that's, we hear a lot about knowledge management for that reason, to collate and manage all that information. But it's estimated now that by the time somebody who's born now reaches 50 years old, 97% of everything, all the information in the world will be new since his birth. So,
wow.
But let me ask you something. People my age and say 45 and over seem to print out everything that they get. I always print it out. But people younger seem to not care about that. Is this a true thing, or is this?
I think so, and I think that this replacement rate and the way that paper changes in relationship to electronic presentation in terms of the way documents get used is a generational thing, and certainly. A child that grows up using a mouse will be much more comfortable reading from a screen or reading from the screen on their computer, which may be the threat to you, to the book, the electronic book as a display medium, because they've always done it that way, and that's the way they've learned to read, and so that is a more comfortable way for them to gain information.
And as we move forward with higher resolution computer screens, it's going to be easier to read on computers, and it will be less an issue of printing out because you can see it better. I mean, our current 72 DPI, 92 DPI screens are just, it's like carving letters on stone.
Yeah.
I mean, we may as well be doing that as opposed to reading on the screen.
And it becomes a question of how fast can you bring that out. There are more computer literate first graders than there are computer literate first grade teachers, and so the children are learning and coming along, but we're don't exactly have a world prepared for them. So we're still teaching them off paper, and
And large stacks of it now, too. You look at what a first grader carries to class now.
Of course.
I mean, it's insane.
And they like to lug this stuff around because it makes them feel important. You know, I have some thoughts on this printing, distribute and print mechanism. I go to the web and I print out all the pages and then I put them together and I bind them up and then I can throw them in my briefcase for reading later, which of course I never do because the idea is just to carry crap around. Coming up on Silicon Spin, nothing sends a message quite like a tie. The results of the famous tie game next. Welcome back. Our question of the week asked viewers whether my ties are too outrageous. Yeah, right. Chad from Rutherford says the only way one of my ties could be outrageous would be if it talked and said that Macs are better than PCs. I love them PC guys. Bob from San Antonio, Texas wrote with a suggestion for me to wear a Rush Limbaugh tie, saying they are extremely cutting edge, as is John. Yeah, but the colors, you know, if you want to know the truth about those Rush ties, the colors are at least 10 years old. Ken from Fremont, Indiana wrote to tell us that he couldn't believe this was our question of the week and who the hell cares? I have never stared at John's tie. Get a real topic, get a real life. We wrote Kent to assure him that we'd return to normal questions. He replied with an apology and said he was just being sarcastic because Spin only reads responses with snappy answers. I'm just doing it to get the mug. And you know what? He's a smart guy. These mugs are worth a fortune. Anyway, thanks for all the comments and for playing the tie game. Out of several hundred entries at siliconspin.com, the winner is the same tie that won a year ago, this tie-dye tie, which is a 60s relic. It won by a landslide, attracting 56% of the votes. We've got some of the other ties here that we didn't enter, and some of these ties that you see these people wearing I've never worn on the show, which makes them more interesting. And David Cole over here, I'm going to ask him whether the ties make the man, but he's the one that actually brought a tie that showed me up today, which I thought was the Wild Scream tie. David, do ties make the man? You like wearing ties like this?
I love wearing weird ties. I've got probably 200 ties at home, and they're all in the craziest colors. These are pretty calm compared to what I usually have.
Do you find that you run into people thinking you have no taste because you can go over the line with outrageous
Of course. But that's part of what helps makes a persona. I mean, you go out, you have a weird tie. That says something about you, doesn't it, John?
Yes, it does. Martin, you actually chose this is one of the ties I've never worn, which you're now wearing, which I don't wear cartoon ties. I just find that on the air, I think they're distracting. But you chose the Sylvester the Cat tie. Would you wear a tie like that? And actually, it actually matches your.
I almost never wear ties, but I don't think I would wear this. I wear this because my granddaughter's going to be watching this on tape, and I think she'd find it funny that I got Sylvester the Cat on my chest.
The funny thing is that tie actually works with that suit.
It's very good. Yes.
Whoa! All right.
So, Martin, you've got and this is a tie I bought in Taiwan for $5. It has Daffy the Duck misprinted.
Wait a minute, you got it in Taiwan?
In Taiwan, yes.
I just wanted to be clear on that.
It's got Daffy the Duck with a green bill, and I think we're out of time. So anyway, that's our tie thing. We'll do it again next year. I'd like to thank our panelists, Keith Davidson of Xplor International, columnist and reviewer Pat Holt, Martin Eberhard of Rocket Book, and publisher David Cole. I'm John C. Dvorak. Thanks for watching Silicon Spin.